trade ramifications. We do move on now, and Paraguay is set to welcome Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te next month. President Santiago Peña confirmed on Monday, marking a significant diplomatic visit for both countries. Paraguay remains one of the few nations that maintains formal diplomatic relations with Taiwan, which China claims as part of its territory. Lai's visit to Paraguay is expected to include transit stops in the United States, a move likely to provoke Beijing, which strongly opposes any official interaction between Taiwan and the US. Peña, speaking at a bilateral investment conference, expressed enthusiasm about Lai's arrival. While Taiwan has several allies in Latin America, many countries have shifted allegiance to China in recent years. This visit underscores Paraguay's stance in support of Taiwan amidst growing international pressure from China. China has regularly condemned US stopovers by Taiwanese leaders, viewing them as a challenge to its sovereignty claims. Taiwan, however, maintains that it has the right to engage with the global community. Well, joining us once again on the programme is Professor Georgi Tolerai, international affairs expert, joining us, of course, once again from Moscow. Professor Tolerai, this situation around Taiwan and China, of course, is contentious. We've seen European countries in recent days supporting the one China policy. US intervention in Taiwan also a point of contention. But let's first look at this specific meeting between the Latin American country and Taiwan. What's the significance in an evolving world of a show of unity with a state visit of this kind?
Well, I think that the problem might be not the Paraguay visit itself, but the stopover in the US. I've read the reports that Mr. Lai might be meeting some friends in New York. I don't know yet who are they, but this is surely 100% provocation. And it's obviously will lead to a very harsh reaction from China. And you know that as for speaking about from a Russian point of view, now our minister Lavrov is in China. He met Wang Yi, the Chinese minister, yesterday, and I'm sure this issue was also discussed. Of course, we will see this as a sort of provocation and increasing tension across the Taiwan Strait, and trying to pressure China again to provoke it. So this is something that I don't think is really helpful.
Yes, and also joining us to discuss this visit that has been announced and a potential visit to the United States, Ross Feingold, a political analyst joining us from Taipei in Taiwan. Ross, can I get your response as well to these reports that Lai Ching-te may visit the United States? Professor Tolerai talking about a potential reaction from China and a potential move towards escalating tensions. What's your opinion?
We've been there before. The president of Taiwan has transited the United States once or twice a year, excluding the COVID pandemic period, for basically the last 30 years. They stop off in big cities on their way to visiting those countries in the Caribbean or Central or South America that still have diplomatic relations with Taiwan. They have meetings with members of Congress. Sometimes they make a closed-door speech. Sometimes they make a public speech at universities or think tanks. China complains, and we move on. It's just something that is part of the United States policy towards Taiwan to allow transits of the Taiwan president, and I don't expect that to change under the Trump administration.
Ross, I want to pick up on that. Of course, you mentioned China complaining about visits of this kind if it does go ahead. But with continued military drills around the self-governed island by China, is there a risk that a move like this, if Lai Ching-te were to meet with President Donald Trump, for example, at the White House, do you think this could be a catalyst for an eventual invasion? Or are the people of Taiwan and the government of Taiwan sort of conscious that might be a step further and that actually the reality is more posturing than a real threat?
I wouldn't expect President Trump to meet with President Lai if President Lai transits the United States. That meeting, that kind of meeting between the president of the U.S. and the president of Taiwan has not happened in the era after the United States derecognized the Republic of China on Taiwan. So I don't think President Trump would break with that precedent. And frankly, if the president of the United States was to meet with the president of Taiwan while the latter was transiting the U.S., China might very well initiate a military response, including even an invasion of Taiwan. I think such a meeting is clearly one of China's red lines, and the American government is probably reluctant to cross that. The American government is willing to let the Taiwan president transit the U.S., but meeting with the president of the United States is probably too much to ask.
Ross, stay with us because we are going to stay on stories from the region. I do want to thank also Professor Toleraya for sticking with us and answering a question